episode 23, Where the Apple Lies.
So,
An Jack episode that he says doesn't have much to talk about. I am shocked. Shocked, I'd say. That's all I'm
anyway,
gonna say.
so about this episode, we can still hear you, Doc. I guess we're just gonna hear her during the whole review. Hear the background noise. So what I did like about this episode, and it solves a problem that has been mentioned a few times by other reviewers, saying that one of the problems with doing an Applejack featured episode without her as the lead and the main character of the thing is she doesn't have enough flaws. Her flaws aren't big and deep enough that she doesn't make great stories. She's good with other ponies to play off of because she can anchor them and make sure they don't go, off the deep end. But, she's so even keeled that it's really hard to make her look, her do something silly, without making her pick up an idiot ball or something. So using like a flashback, using the past to tell about a time when she wasn't, I think is a great way of showing her character development without having to regress the character themselves. You get to see what they were like in the past and how they got to how they are now.
Yeah.
But let's begin again. We open with them selling the Zap Apple jam to Filthy Rich, or just Rich as he preferred to be called. And Apple Bloom, messes up with the packing of the Zap Apple jam for cider. And apparently it's a big deal not to sell cider to Filthy Rich. Which we get to later on, but, this whole leads into this little rabbit hole leads to, them talking to Apple Bloom about not lying. And one thing I do like about, and it shows Best Pony being Best Pony, is, she's like, you might as well tell her the whole story. She might even do her some good. It's an embarrassing story for her, but she's encouraging somebody else, Granny, to tell it because it's like, it would be good for her, Yeah, I don't like this story being told, but it'll help her grow maybe and learn from my mistakes and learn not to do that. Though the Cutie Mark Crusaders are very liable to lie and try and fix things before people realize what actually went down. But yeah, the cider thing makes Rich nervous, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think Granny might be in the Pony Mafia.
What makes you say that?
She's scary.
Nah, she's that, she's that pony nobody messes with because they know what happens if they mess with her. And they know if they mess around too much, I don't know how, if Grandpappy, was it Stinkin' Rich, is still around, but he knows if he messes around, she'll go to him, and he doesn't want that. And so that was basically, kind of her way of countering, any threat from him is like, no, I'll just go back to your Grandpappy and he'll set you straight. But AJ's like, telling lies won't fix anything, which we've seen her cover a few times. But, it's a hard lesson one, considering she's like, she used to lie. A lot. We get to move back to the past, and AJ's all scrawny now. She hasn't quite filled out. Big Mac is big. He's probably full size.
Well, he's big, or one could say large.
Yeah, and he's got a slightly, spikier hairdo, and now AJ, instead of having the one long ponytail, has like pigtails. As the two tails. Instead. So it's interesting to see what they all look like back then. I mean, we don't see Apple Bloom at all. I guess she was, at this point, she was just a filly, because we don't see their parents around. So since we don't see their parents around, I assume this is post their passing
Demise.
on. They're passing on, but Apple Bloom is around, but she's a baby at the time. But we get that AJ at this point is an idea mare, looking to try new things, while Mac is more for continuing to focus on how things have always been and how things have always been done. But the other thing is, he's got a mouth on him. He will not shut up. He just keeps talking and talking and talking and talking. No one can get a word in edgewise.
Mac, shut this.
Talking and talking in one incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic so that no one could interrupt, was really quite hypnotic. Anyway, you see Granny a few years ago. She's got less wrinkles, mostly the same shape, but she's just got less wrinkles. And apparently at this point there's an apple blight. Let's see. Now there's a line in here. There's a couple lines in here that, taken out of context, are... Well, I'll just leave them without context and let you kind of think what you will of them. Yeah. Brayburn. Now there's a pony who knows how to put his back into a problem. Big Mac. Without context. Apparently, Spoiled Milk was Spoiled Rich's maiden name. Did her parents hate her or something?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, did they know she's gonna be a brat when she grew up?
Well, I mean, you're naming your kid after something stinky and foul. It's like, you just hate, your mother hates you? I don't know, maybe Spoiled Milk isn't as big a deal, but it in terms of, in Equestria, I mean, it's not as, as a name, it's not as bad, but I certainly, if I were naming a foal, I would not name them Spoiled Milk. But she still is stuck up and annoyed with the lesser ponies, those of the lower class. AJ kicks off the whole mess with promising Spoiled Rich, not Spoiled Rich, Filthy, 3 barrels of cider that she can't actually provide because she has to go through Granny to figure that out, to get that sent out, to get agreed to. And she can't do, so that kicks off the whole thing. And that whole thing also goes against family tradition of the lining up at Sweet Apple Acres. Which, because Granny vetoes, and, she completely vetoes the idea because, while Zap Apple Jam, that'll stay for moons. It's fine. It's jam. It's preserves. It will stay. It's designed to stay. Apple cider, as soon as it comes off the press, is already the moment it comes off the press is as good as it's going to get. And so keeping it fresh and making sure that only the freshest cider gets out there.
She could just told Filthy Rich, say, hey, if you wait a few months, you can sell it as hard cider.
So I've heard, and I don't know for certain, I'm not a master brewer of any sort, but, like, the thing about cider is, like, their cider is, if it has a foamy head on it, it's alcoholic. If it doesn't, it's non-alcoholic. You can tell by that. I'm not sure about whether that's true or not. I haven't looked into it. I mean, it makes sense in some ways in that there would be fermentation would be needed to add the carbon dioxide that would allow for the foam. But, yeah. At any rate, and that was probably the reason they, that's probably the reason why it was delayed in the UK to edit out the cider thing, because all cider over there is alcoholic. You say cider, you're talking about alcoholic. It's there's alcohol in there, and then they're just casually serving it to Apple Bloom, so that would get really weird, That wouldn't, if you're thinking about, here, have some alcohol, child.
Yeah, ponies are of legal drinking age.
Yeah, but, cider over here could mean either alcoholic or non-alcoholic drink, but over there it means, pretty much always means alcohol. And so giving it to her is, and so I can understand why they wanted to edit that. I've now seen the rest of the season, so.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, and while they're walking, a fun little thing that happens is, if you're watching as they're walking down the street, we see Big Mac, while they're walking, cheerily. He looks back at 80s cheerily. He was walking the other direction. His eyes drift towards 80s cheerily.
He's like, well, hello, good looking.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like he got distracted by her, and he was like, oh, yeah. And then came back. I mean, he's young and spry stallion. It's not surprising. He's looking around. But afterwards, we find out that on their way there, that Big Mac, thinks everyone should know what he's thinking at all times. You should be telling everybody what you're thinking so they know where you stand and that sort of thing. But then AJ points out that means that he doesn't listen to anyone. He just keeps talking and talking. And doesn't actually listen to anybody, just keeps going on and on.
The voice actor plays him sort of like wait, so I get to finally say more lines than just nope and yep.
Well, he did it in Ponyville Confidential. Peter knew. I think is Big Mac's voice actor, and he actually got to talk some more in Ponyville Confidential. He got to sing, I think, in Philly Vanilli and Sisterhood Social, the Brotherhood Social.
Yeah,
I
but
think
this
he
is,
actually
I
got to
think
talk
this
quite a
is like,
bit. But yeah, it's rare that he does get to talk much. I think it was Brotherhood Social. It was something to that effect. When Big Mac puts on a dress. Let's see. We find out that Filthy was really anticipating the cider and made a whole display counting on it. Annoyed on them not following through on the deal, he threatens maybe cutting off business between the families. We actually do get to see Barnyard. We actually do get to see Barnyard Bargains for once. It's always been hinted at and said that, oh, he runs Barnyard Bargains. Oh, he runs that store, that store, that store. But we never actually see Barnyard Bargains, I don't think, until just now. This is the first time we actually see it. I mean, it's in the past, but I can't imagine it's changed all that much. Oh, and we also get to see Cupcake.
I want cupcakes. Give me cupcakes right now.
Watch the episode, you'll see her. She's getting her groceries at the store. So now we start the, tangled web you weave when you practice to deceive.
You gotta take your shoes off, kiddo.
AJ tells the lie that Granny is sick and they're short-hooved and they just didn't want anybody knowing that. And her and Big Mac go back and forth afterward about the lie. In the meantime, Filthy drops by with Spoiled, unannounced, with flowers. So now AJ's got to keep pushing Granny out into
That was nice of them.
into the kitchen, and then, pushing her out into the barn to, no, you need to go over there. You need to go over there. You need to go over there, to try and distract, keep them away from Granny. While Big Mac distracts the Riches by telling them the story. This is, we got to know. See, this is one of those things where they told us one story, but they taunted us with the other two. Like, why is he calling? He tells them the story of why he was called himself big or large, and why he always wears his yoke, apparently, while they were in the house. We got that from them, but we didn't ever get to hear that story. Which is like, okay, we find out why he doesn't talk much, why he's become so monosyllabic, but he's got quite the silver tongue when he wants to, but he decided to forego that and become more quiet.
Yes.
So they've managed to get the Riches to the edge of the farm while they sent Granny out to check on the sprayers. Again, they just keep pushing her around, pushing them around. And
I would just continue the lie and say, the reason she's here actually, look how demented she is. She thinks that ponies can have apple blight.
At any rate, anyway, so apparently when Granny starts telling not listening to somebody when you're talking is a thing that happens with the apples, because then Granny starts telling the story of the first apple blight, and she keeps talking, even though Applejack just flat out leaves the barn while she's talking. Apparently.
Yeah, I have family members like that.
They will continue to tell the story whether you're there or not once they have started. It's like a pull string on a toy. And in the meantime, they will be completely, oblivious to any change around them. But yeah, and then let's see what else. Oh, we got another story. Oh, what was the other story? I thought we got one more story that Big Mac told about something else, or was it just those two? I think it was just those two. There's some other story he told them about while they were. Oh, well, he was telling them why the trees grew so big. Yeah, well, they were. Well, AJ was getting Granny squared away in the barn. Let's see. They managed to get to the richest edge of the farm while I sent Granny out to check on sprayers. AJ keeps Granny busy telling stories. Okay, AJ spins the lie deeper and says they sent her to Ponyville General. So now that they got to get Granny to Ponyville General, you know, they could have just said no, she's not well enough to see ponies at this point, and just left it at that. She's like, no, she's at Ponyville General. So in order to get her to Ponyville General, she tells her the lie that apple blight is starting to affect ponies, and the doctors need an expert. So, you know, they're sneaking around, going in the back way. And apparently AJ wants Big Mac to pretend to be Granny.
God, the security in that hospital sucks.
Yeah. But, and basically that, you know, if she does it, he'll talk the ear off and get him caught. You know, she's the more skilled liar, so he needs to be Granny. Got a little feedback there. Watch your mic and headphones.
Okay.
This is another thing I want to read to you without context, and just leave it at that. Alright, climb up here and I'll cover you up. Then I'll bring Rich in, tell him you're Granny, but you're not allowed to take the sheets off. You moan a few times, he leaves, and this whole thing is over.
And whatever you do, don't lift your hoof up and down.
Okay. Anyway, so the hospital staff take Big Mac on the gurney. And as AJ is searching for Big Mac, we get Derpy with bandages around her eyes. So apparently the surgery failed. Or alternatively, she was like cross-eyed and they did a surgery and now it's just the eyes are a bit wonky instead of crossed where you can't see anything. Your eyes are a little wonky, you can still see decently. Yeah. But if your eyes are crossed, you can't really see anything too well.
Yeah. She was like, I need you to mess up my vision. I have seen stuff that no pony should ever see.
So Granny talks about the blight turning the trunk red and needing to prune. Thankfully, oddly enough, that the blight turns trunks red, just like Big Macintosh. But, you know, as things are getting, you know, the web is getting deeper and deeper and deeper and more tangled, AJ just stops the whole thing, cuts the Gordian knot, and just confesses as to what's going on. Oh, when we get
like,
Good.
Big Mac's like, hey, Jay, do something. I don't want to become a eunuch.
I think she was just she would be an amputee, not a eunuch. I think she was going for a leg.
I think she meant all the limbs.
Well, whatever. Big Mac launches his first nope. And we get, that's not entirely true. Maybe if I paid more attention to what you had to say instead of talking all the time, none of this would have happened in the first place. I just need to talk less and listen more, especially to you. Which, it's a nice sentiment, but what point did he not listen to her? About, at what point did he not listen to her? Listening would have helped the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good sentiment, and it's a decent reason, but I don't really see where him listening more would have helped. She was flat out lying, If, in fact, if he had talked more and spoke up about what was going on, and not kept quiet about what was going on with Granny, even if it would have annoyed AJ, it would have solved the whole mess a lot sooner. But anyway, but Granny counters Filthy's threat with one of her own, talking to his grandpappy about his wanting to cut ties with the Apples. And then the operating theater gets regaled with Granny's story of the apple blight.
When will she shut up? This has been going on for hours!
And we finish with Applebloom. I sure did. I learned that no pony starts out perfect, and sometimes you gotta make a few mistakes to figure out who you are. Basically, don't lie. And apparently, she thinks AJ's perfect, which is nice.
And the lesson,
which is the athletically is the nice. It's just the correct position.
The lesson I would have taken from it would have been, if I'm going to lie, I need to be a lot better at it.
And that is why you are not best pony. Stretch. Anyway, I don't have anything else on my little list of things to talk about. It was one of my shorter lists of things. It was kind of it was a lot of box standard stuff, though they did tease us with why certain things are about Big Mac and whatnot. But overall, it was kind of box standard with this sort of episode. The little kid character gets, says one lie and then has to continue lying and weaving their lies more intricately, when a simple truth at any point would have cut the whole web apart and made their lives a lot simpler.
Actually, speaking of Applebloom, I just don't think she was born yet.
Well, if her parents weren't around,
well,
and
they could have been like off on business or something. Because I'm thinking she wasn't
then why
born
wouldn't
yet.
They would have shown up at some point? I would think. They would have been there for dinner.
Probably. But
they don't ever mention that they're off on business. I think this is post.
Well, the only reason I don't think she's born yet is because let's see, okay, I'm actually the right one. Is because I think I know for a fact that Diamond Tiara isn't born yet, because Spoiled Milk is Filthy Rich's fiance in this, and Applebloom and her are probably like around the same age.
Yeah. That would mean that does create a problem with the continuity, because either Diamond Tiara is actually younger than Applebloom by probably at least a year.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
yeah,
assuming that parents could just be.
Assuming they're going to get married
like
soon
on long business trips. Yeah.
Have Diamond Tiara relatively quickly. I mean, it could still work if Applebloom's just is actually older than Diamond Tiara, then it could work. You could maybe squeeze a year in there and say
Yeah,
she's
or
almost a year older than Diamond Tiara. You know,
yeah,
that, you know, because, you know, say she was born not too long before this, and their parents died relatively soon after, then you could still squeeze that in, and this could still be post that. Otherwise, yes, they would have to have been
yeah.
gone, like out of the, you know, off the farm for some reason. Which it seems
Yeah, well,
odd that they weren't.
I think they usually are like off the farm because they're the ones who go out for like long periods of times. Maybe they like run another farm somewhere else, or
Well, the other
they just
thing that
yeah.
comes out of this that's they're talking about who's going to take over the farm, you know, someday, from Granny. You know, they didn't really mention their parents. It wasn't even a thought. So, I
Or
don't
maybe
know.
the parents don't run a farm at all. Maybe they just live in the city.
I don't know. You know, it's one thing. It's one thing for, say, Fluttershy, for us not to see her parents for as many seasons as we did. You know, it wasn't until this season that we actually saw Fluttershy's parents. We still haven't seen Rainbow Dash's parents, but they also live in a different city. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
that's not too crazy that we wouldn't have seen them, because they just live in a different city and we just haven't gone there very much. I mean, we don't visit Cloudsdale but maybe once, maybe twice a season. So,
Well, the
given
only
so the odds of having a time where we meet Pegasus' parents isn't that great. Everybody else was generally, we either know their parents or they were born somewhere else and moved to Ponyville. Like Rarity, she was born and lived in Ponyville for all her life, so she's we see her parents. We know her parents very
yeah.
well. Pinkie Pie, well, her parents were out on the rock farm, so that's why we didn't see them for a while. So, I mean, you know, at some point, wouldn't there, they would mention them, or, you know, when, they would mention, or they would show up, and, even if just, we're back from the city, and how big of a, thing would that have been if, they just
Yeah, I
showed
mean,
up
the only
back from the
reason
city. We've made loads of money for the farm. That
the only
sort of.
reason I think that they might live in the city is because we know that Aunt Orange lives in the city.
Yeah, but that's Aunt and Uncle Orange, and I just don't think I don't think that's the answer to this, because even the staff have
I
gone
know.
so far as to say, hey, these two shooting stars, that was representative of them, and essentially
Yeah.
word of God in this series says, yeah, they're gone, and so, not to Manhattan, just they're gone, and
Yeah, true. Apple Bloom could have been born and just maybe she's at daycare.
or maybe Granny's looking after her, and that's why Applejack and Big Mac are doing all the work, is because they're having, and why Granny is having to stress over this so much is because she's having to look after little Apple Bloom, and the other two are having to go out and actually take care of the farm. I'm sure Granny's doing all she can, but she's also got to look after little Apple Bloom, because Big Mac could help some, and AJ could help some, but they really need an adult looking after such a young filly.
True.
But yeah, the exact position of the time in this episode is is suspect. I mean, is this, or were they just off the farm? If they were just, off the farm at this point, and they were off on, farm business doing something, why were they never mentioned? And why do they talk about taking over the farm from Granny? If it is, I mean, this is, the timing should have been that, Spoiled Rich and Filthy Rich were newlyweds. Then that would have put them, in the right kind of time frame in order to, to have Diamond Tiara and her be relatively similar in age to Apple Bloom. Those would be relatively similar in age. But yeah, we don't know. I mean, the fact that we don't see them at all seems to suggest that this is post them, but we just don't know what's going to happen with it.
Or there's one more thing. They could be alive, but they could be on maternity leave.
But I think that would have come up at some point. I mean, it's a possibility, but it's one of those. Everything you say, everything that the reason that you're doing something is they would.
No offense about you saying it would have come up.
Yeah, but
everything. The show has a tendency to not really mention stuff that they should. They do that a lot. Like, we never found out about Fluttershy's parents. Like, they were never mentioned until that one episode.
Well, they were never really needed to be mentioned. Parents. It was assumed that she had them, and we just never had a reason to go visit yet. And then,
well, I mean, but you could also say it's assumed that Scootaloo has parents, but we never see them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's assumed that she has parents. We just don't see them because she's a second string character, and she has no relatives in the main six, other than kind of an adopted big sister in Rainbow Dash. So, we know she we don't know anything about her parents. But it's not all that important. I mean, I'm sure once it becomes important to do, they'll, if they think of a great story to have her parents come in on, then, they'll come in on it.
Nah, they'll probably just be like, oh, crap, show's almost over. We need to throw something in now.
Well, I mean, I think, they've basically, heck, Rainbow Dash, we've kind of seen who we assume is her parent. It might be an older sibling, but we don't know. We assume it's her parent, or at least one of them is her parent, because that color palette was just screaming Rainbow Dash relative. But, we don't know whether that was her, what relationship they had, sibling, parent, that sort of thing. And we haven't really met them. We don't know what they're like. Are they both hyper competitive like Dash? Does she have older siblings that she just doesn't mention because they're annoying, or they annoy her tremendously? Because she could have just like a hyper competitive brother or sister who's competitive in a different way, and then just like they never came to town, or they never visit, and the whole family is just speed freaks. They just love to go fast. There's yeah. Or alternatively, they could all be like search and rescue ponies with like that love to fly really slow, and they do searches, they do emergency rescue stuff, and so they do low, slow sweeps to find ponies in need, in danger, and then that's what they do for a living.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of different ways that we could eventually get like a Rainbow Dash or a Scootaloo parents. We just haven't seen them. I think everybody else, though, we have seen one way or another, and confirmed, and met everybody else's parents except for Dash and Scootaloo. Those are the only two who we haven't seen their parents for, and what kind of parents they are. It should be interesting, though. If we ever do, that's got to be something they got to think about at some point in season 7 or 8, depending on how things go. But yeah, if that's the case, that's one of the last things that we haven't seen is what are Rainbow Dash's parents like?
Now I know, pretty sure we have seen Twilight's parents, but
yes,
they actually
several
never
times.
speak.
Not all that much. It's usually a few lines here, a few lines there. They showed up after at the end of, I think, the crystalling. I think they showed up at the end of that. They showed up at her coronation, and they said it's mostly talking about either talking about Flurry Heart, or they were congratulating Twilight, I think. Other than that, I'm not sure if they talked at the coronation. I know I know Shining did, but I'm not sure her parents did. But I know she talked at the end of that.
Yeah. We haven't seen Luna or Celestia's parents.
I don't think we will, but unless the Fausticorn should descend from the heavens.
Although I wonder if Cadence's parents are still alive, because I'm pretty sure she's not over 1,000 years old.
No, she's about the same age as Shining. They're actually relatively contemporary for them, and we're not sure if like ascended Alicorns are immortal like the sisters.
Yeah.
Whether Cadence and Twilight will be immortal as well. I mean, they've said, I think there was a Word of God sort of Twitter thing that Twilight will not outlive her friends, which means one of two things. Either she's not immortal, which is the simpler answer, and that ascended Alicorns they're mortal, they're much more powerful than a normal pony, but they're not immortal. But the other way they could go is everybody gets an Alicorn. Everybody's an Alicorn. You're an Alicorn. You're an Alicorn. You're an Alicorn.
I like anytime somebody asks me, so how did Rosie become an Alicorn? And it's like, you can be born an Alicorn, right? He says, no, you can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Luna and Celeste, you moron.
Well, Flurry Heart now, too.
Yeah, true. And I'm surprised. People are so shocked that she was an Alicorn. I'm like, duh. It's bloody genetics.
I still didn't like it, but
me neither, but it still made sense.
I mean, I understood why they did it. I just didn't really like that they did it, because it cheapens the Alicorn thing. Because that was the whole selling point on how we could get around why Twilight was okay for her to be an Alicorn, because she earned it. That was the whole point, was she earned her Alicornness. Cadence earned her Alicorn nature. They earned it. That's how you become an Alicorn. You earn it. And Flurry Heart's just coming out as, an Alicorn. It's like, I know the sisters were supposed to have been born, but there's some conflicting information as to whether they were born Alicorns or become.
No, they were. I have the journal of the two sisters.
Yeah, but there's also in the episode with Flurryheart, they talked about how that they've
I know they
never
talked about that there's never been a birth, an Alicorn birth in Equestria, but that's only because Luna and Celestia were born before Equestria was established.
I guess you could go around it you could get around it that way, but it sounded to me more like, oh, nobody's ever been born in Alicorn. It's like, that's a qualifier that seems a little thin, but at any rate, I mean, it was a little annoying, but it's like, okay, I get it. You want to have, take your Alicorn to print it. It's like, I don't want whatever. It's like you could really have just had her born a unicorn, and I would have been super cool with that. She had to, she still has to earn her wings. She might have been a more powerful. I would have been super happy if she'd been like a unicorn, but she's really, really powerful. That would have, like her magic is super strong. I would have been totally on board with that, because that would have made sense. She's the daughter of an Alicorn and a unicorn. Her being a unicorn, not crazy because her father's one, and her being really powerful because her mother's an Alicorn, also not crazy. So a really powerful unicorn, would have made sense. Something like Starlight, but take it up another notch.
There's something I want to know though, which I never really got answered by anything. Can there only be mare Alicorns?
That's all we've had so far. We have had no other examples, but that's not to say it's impossible. It's just never happened, to our knowledge.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell Doc already so we can do the show read.
Yeah, got off on a tangent here, but it should make for some interesting viewing for the people watching. They can go, oh, well, we've actually got the episode talk, and then that.